This is Amani with Build Brothers, started by Digital Inspection. We are at a property in the Pacific Beach area. And for these digital inspections, we always like to start underneath the eaves just to get an idea of the condition of the wood. Now, the eaves consist of, we have the fascia board on the outside, we have the rafter tails right here, and then we have the starter boards. These eaves look like they were painted recently, so it's very hard to tell and see if there's any rotted wood. But for the most part, looks to be in fair condition. We do have the intake ventilation. This allows the cool air to enter the attic space. And what we're looking at here is a architectural asphalt shingle roof. Now there is drip edge. Drip edge is that metal flashing that goes on the perimeter, and this allows for the water to freely flow off and go into the gutters rather than soak into that fascia board. So that is a good sign. A couple things I wanted to point out here. So looking at this front section, above the garage, we don't see step or counter flashing. So that's going to be that roof to wall flashing, and then that counter flashing that goes on top of it. An example of what's missing is what we see here underneath the eave. So we have the step and then we have the counter flashing, and you can see the clear difference of what's missing here. And we actually have exposed nail heads. Looks like what was done is they actually just nailed these in without putting any flashing, and then put some sealant on top of that, and some sealant on top of this as well. And we do have exposed nail heads up here as well, so it's definitely a red flag to me. We do have another exposed nail head and exposed staple head right there. And we do see some wear and tear on the shingle tabs on the edge here. Looks like they're starting to fall apart a bit. Okay, another thing I noticed, besides the damaged shingle tabs, is the courses. So these courses are actually not nailed on straight. You're not supposed to see any of this overhang like so, right? These are supposed to be nice and straight, and you can see that this is jagged, right? Over here, these are nice and flush. You don't see that second seam, and over here you can see that that's coming out a little bit. So that's another thing I noticed. Again, we have some exposed nail heads slash staples. Looks like a shingle tab was blown off. And this just happens due to age. That adhesiveness on the shingle product begins to wear away, and then that's when you start to have broken shingle tabs like that, and then it's going to expose that staple head or that nail head. Same thing along the ridge caps. What you can see here is the amount of granule loss on these. So basically what happens over time is, as that product is baking in the sun, those oils begin to evaporate and the product begins to dehydrate, and then these granules start to fall off over time. And that's what's going to expose this fiberglass underneath. And this is going to greatly affect the waterproofing capability of the shingle product anytime it rains. So it's doing very little protecting anytime it does rain. Again, exposed nail heads, it's a common theme on this roof. We have more granule loss. Checking around the penetrations. The penetrations appear to be sealed, except these staple heads. So these are actually just painted over. Those actually aren't sealed. And we see the same thing on every single one of these. So anytime I point out an exposed staple head or nail head, that is a leak. Essentially an open hole in the roofing material. And we see the same thing on the ridge caps, right? These all need to be sealed up when a roof is installed. And again, we see more broken shingle tabs. More exposed nail heads. See, that shingle tab was blown off, and it almost looks like there was some overhead service, maybe a satellite dish that was installed on here and then removed, and went ahead and put some sealant on that. Okay, I want to pay attention to this flat section, the patio cover. So what we have here is modified bitumen torch down material on this. And following the theme of the exposed nail heads, we have the same thing on here on the entire perimeter. So the way torch down is professionally installed, there is a smooth layer that gets heated up with the torch or the flamethrower, and then that open flame heats the material up, and then we put the modified bitumen cap sheet on top of that. So there's no need for any nails, and that is a red flag to me, because that just shows us this is again an unprofessional install. You can see that this seam is completely open. For the seams, we at least like to see a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of bleed out, and what we see here is a lot of mastic repair. So this is leaking actively. And then something interesting under here is the posts. So these posts actually go through the roofing material itself. We do see a little bit of termite droppings. So I'm not sure if they're active or not, but termites have been munching on this wood. You can see these droppings around the post. And in order to waterproof these posts, what they should have done is put flashings on this as well. So both step and counter flashings in order to seal this up, and there's none on here. Same thing on this side. Some sealant has been put on there, but these really need to be flashed. Alrighty, so overall assessment of this roof. There are multiple red flags. There's a lot of broken parts on the shingles. We have a ton of exposed nail heads and staple heads, and lack of flashing on multiple parts. So there's too many parts that require repair on this roof to get a uniform look. So my recommendation for this is a complete tear off. This roof is in critical condition and is vulnerable to leaks as it stands. So what we want to do is tear this down to the wood decking, address any rotten wood that needs to get replaced. Any wood replacement gets done on a discovery basis. We can't determine the amount that gets replaced until we actually take off the old product. Now, after that, we want to put down a synthetic underlayment. Currently, as it stands, we have a felt paper underlayment on this roof. So once we get the synthetic underlayment on top of that, then we will replace with a new Owens Corning shingle. We're an Owens Corning preferred contractor, so we get that awesome 50-year product warranty, and then we actually back that with a lifetime workmanship. All these flashings will be reflashed, and then we'll actually trash this dormer vent and replace with low profile O'Hagan vents like you see it over here. This is a more modern upgraded version of the exhaust ventilation because we want to allow that attic space to get rid of that hot air. So I'll get this out to the homeowner and go over some options. Thank you.